Welcome. My name is Debbie Aspitia, and I'm an instructional strategist with Wayside Publishing. Thank you for joining me as we look at the top 4 reasons we should be integrating performance assessments into our world language instruction. In order to talk about performance assessment, we need to talk about learning targets or can-do statements. The necessful, actful, can-do statements provide landmarks for learners along their journey to proficiency. Communicative can-do statements provide learners a means to focus on what they need to know and be able to do in the target language, and they assess how well they can meet the learning targets for each mode of communication within the unit. Intercultural can-do statements provide learners a means to reflect on their intercultural learning by guiding them to identify, describe, explain, or compare what they know in their own and other cultures. While a test may be an efficient way to gather evidence about learners' conceptual knowledge, a performance assessment is a better tool for gathering evidence about what learners can do with their knowledge. So let's take a look at 4 of the top reasons to use performance assessments. Performance assessments measure how well learners apply their knowledge, skills, and abilities to authentic situations. Through performance-based assessment tasks, learners assume roles in real-world scenarios that provide a context for language use. They engage in tasks that reflect authentic uses of the language, such as making lists, exchanging text messages, or giving directions. A key feature is that performance assessments ask that the learner produce something or perform in some way that connects to the real-world use of language. Through performance assessment, learners show what they know and what they can do with what they know, all scored against specific criteria as outlined in rubrics. By their nature, by being authentic tasks in authentic contexts, performance assessments have learners show what they can do in the language in the 3 modes of communication. Integrated performance assessments incorporate all 3 modes in authentic contexts. They start by setting the scenario. For example, the learner is going to host a student from a country that speaks the language he or she is studying. In the interpretive assessment, the learner watches video introductions from 2 candidates. The learner completes graphic organizers with the information the young people share, and he or she chooses one of the 2 based on common likes. In the interpersonal assessment, learners engage in conversations in either writing or speaking. In our example, the learner responds to an email from the young person in which he or she introduces himself or herself and asks a couple of follow-up questions. And in the presentational assessment, the learner also communicates in either writing or speaking. In our example, the learner is going to create his or her own introductory video to share with the young person who will be visiting. Shorter formative assessments also address the 3 modes. For example, the learner and a friend, Philippe, are going to prepare a traditional recipe from a francophone country. The learner notes that some ingredients are missing from the pantry, so he or she texts Philippe, who has gone to the supermarket. They exchange text messages about what they have and what they need to purchase. Voila, an interpersonal writing task. Let me repeat too that the performance tasks, of course, align with the can-do statements of the unit. So for example, in this scenario, the learning target might be, I can exchange information about ingredients in a traditional dish. Performance assessment goes hand in hand with high leverage strategies that are applied in the classroom and should mirror the same scope of engagement on the assessments. Performance assessments provide teachers with data that goes beyond simple vocabulary or grammar recall. They allow learners to apply what they know and put emphasis on the extent to which they can do so. Performance-based assessments also prompt learners to use higher-order thinking skills such as analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and creation. These skills combine with practical applications to move learners beyond simple recall. This in turn leads to a deeper and more meaningful learning experience, which is the ultimate goal. Perhaps the most important reason for using performance assessments is the focus they provide on the learner. Performance assessments are a critical component of creating a high-engagement, learner-centered environment and a show-what-you-know culture. Compared to didactic instruction and selected response tests, performance tasks can produce high levels of motivation and engagement. Many open-ended forms of performance assessment are at least partially interest-based. Often they give learners control over themes, pacing, language choice, and the final product. Performance assessments allow teachers to pinpoint their learners' strengths and identify areas for growth. This supports differentiated approaches to both instruction and assessment. With the can-do statements, performance assessments allow learners to monitor themselves, and metacognition, even in a test environment, is enormously beneficial to understanding and moving forward with language acquisition. So let's recap our list. Performance assessments are authentic, communicative, high impact, and student-centered. Through the use of performance assessments, the process of language acquisition will become more transparent, and learners will be able to set their own goals and take charge of their learning. If this segment has sparked an interest for you on this topic, check out Integrated Performance Assessments at CARLA, the Center for Advanced Research on Language Acquisition. And of course, check in with our national organization, ACTFL. I hope you're encouraged to move to performance assessment for all the reasons outlined and more. Thanks for spending a bit of your day with me, and don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions.